Hello, everybody. And today is the first day of week 2. Until now, we have done a lot of new things about Unity. We have installed Unity. We have got to know the basics of Unity. And now we know about the primitive objects, meshes, textures, and materials and whatnot, right? So this is the beginning of week 2, and this week is gonna be a bit more, you can say, comprehensive than the previous week, right? Because on the previous week, we're just getting to know Unity, but now we'll be actually using the powers of Unity, okay? And we'll be seeing how we can use the powers of Unity to do different stuff, okay? So today's day 1 of week 2, and let's get started. So let me share my screen. First of all, before starting stuff, I would like to ask everybody, you guys were given a homework, right? For week 1. How many of you gave it a try? And what were you able to do it? If yes, I would like to say it would be really great if you could make a small video of it and send it to the email that we have already provided you. Also, it will be really helpful for you if you have made that and you put it on your LinkedIn and Twitter. That will be really great, as people would love to know, and they'll get to know what you guys are doing. Okay, and I'm sure you would have faced some issues and problems as well. So maybe you can send us your doubts on the Gmail already provided to you. And we're also looking into the possibility of getting a Discord server ready where you can actually put your queries and we can help you as we go. Okay, so today's session is about scripting, right? So let's take a deep dive into it. Let's get into it directly. What is scripting? Why do we do scripting? What is the use of scripting? Okay, so this was our asset scene that we did last time, and this was really helpful as we were able to import other people's stuff into our own assets, and we also got to know about the different types of materials and their uses. Okay, so let's start off with scripting. Okay, before starting off with scripting, I would like to tell you that currently our project window looks pretty messy, right? Because here we have all the scenes also here, all the materials also here, and some assets also here. So this is not the right way of doing things. What is the right way of doing things? We should be categorizing stuff, right? So let's make a folder. Maybe let's say my folder, maybe you can give the project name, right? Scripting, because, okay, let's give it the main project name. Okay, so and also you can add a 00 underscore so that this always comes at the top. Okay, and now inside this we'll be making some more folders in which we'll be putting the particular things. Okay, for example, first and the foremost, let's make it should be of scenes. Okay, so what all scenes do we have? Then we can simply press Ctrl D to duplicate this, and now we can see what else do we have till now. We had scenes. Now we will be having scripts as well, right? So let's make one for scripts. Then what else did we have till now? We have had materials, right? Materials. We have had also 3D models. So we could say models. Okay, and all the assets that we import from the Unity asset store, they can stay outside of this thing, right? So in this folder 00 main project, we'll have all the things that we have made. Okay, so let's get started with this. Here in the scenes folder, what we will do is we will make a scene, and in this scene we'll be getting to know about scripting. So let's name this scripting basics. Did I miss a spelling? Yep, I did. Scripting basics. Okay, so let's double click on it, and this shall open a new scene with just the camera and the lighting, right? And now we resize my window so that you can see me better. Right. So scripting. So before just diving into scripting, let me give you a brief about scripting. What is scripting? Why do we need scripting, right? And then we'll get to know how scripting works, and then we'll jump on to what can we actually do with scripting. Okay, so first of all, what is scripting? So scripting allows us to programmatically change, add behaviors and control the things. Okay, for example, as of now, till now, what were we doing? We were doing everything. We were doing everything via the via this editor, right? We were doing everything. For example, if you want to maybe create a new object, we would right click and then say create cube, right? We are doing this manually, and that too in the editor. What if we wanted to create it without this right click, without doing anything in the editor. How can we do this? This we can do by scripting. Similarly, if you want to change the position, right? What as of now we are changing things via editor. What if we don't want it to be like this? We want it to be changing, without interaction with the editor, and maybe from some inputs from the user, or maybe automatically, as time passes, it should change its position automatically. All these things will be done via the magic of scripting, right? So let's delete this cube. And first and the foremost thing that I would love to share with you about scripting is how to make one, right? How can we make a script? So let's again do things in a proper fashion, neat and clean manner. Let's go to the folder structure that we made. And here, right click again, click on create, and then simply go to C# script. Okay. As soon as you click on it, a new script will be created and you will be asked to name it. So let's name it base script. Okay, or maybe learn script. So now what you will see here is if you double click on it, it will take some time, because it has created the script. Now, if you double click on this here, it shall open Microsoft Visual Studio, right? And why should it open it? Because as we know, in the very second session, we installed, when we were installing Unity, we said install Microsoft Visual Studio. So this window, something like this should open up, right? And if this doesn't happen, what you can do is, if you have followed the steps, it should open. If it doesn't, maybe you have already downloaded the stuff, but it's not set up. So simply click on, maybe file on Mac, click on Unity, and then go to preferences, right? And if you're on Windows, you would have to go on edit, and then below this project setting or above this project setting, you would have preferences option, right? In preferences, scroll down or navigate down to external tools, and here you would see external script editor. So you can select any one of them. Like they could be multiple. Like in Mac, there is Mono, Develop, and whatnot, right? But we want to use this Microsoft Visual Studio, right? Make sure that this is selected in your Mac or Windows, and then it shall open it in the, this Microsoft Visual Studio. This keeps on popping. We don't want this as of now. So let's remove it maybe. Okay, let's just hide it. So this is the very script that we made. Okay, public class learn script mono behavior, and this says some gibberish, right? So here the script, what a script is, it is basically a class. Okay, and then we have two base functions here. Okay, the two provided functions, which is start and upload. And there are many more functions that we can add. There are many more functions that are actually called, right? So this is a script. Now let's see what are the first errors that you might face when you're creating a script. So we created a learn script, right? And it seems to work fine, right? Now, again, let's try to create a script. What would happen, what might happen is when you're creating a script and it says, to name it, you might accidentally click somewhere else, or don't name it. And now you see, here we have a new script known as new behavior script, right? That's good. That's all good. What if I try to change its name from here itself? Okay. Now let me name it basic script. Okay. Now we would get an error. Why is that so? Because this basic script, or this script doesn't exist here. The name of the class and name of the script should be same. Okay. This should be same. That is why you can see red lines. These are errors. Because although we have renamed this here, but we have this doesn't change inside stuff, right? So let's name this as well basic script. Okay, now Control S, save it, and boom. Now there should be no errors. So your class name that is inside the script and the script name should be one and the same. Okay, so here it says is already okay. So basically, earlier I created a new script, right? Let me delete this. Just creating some errors. This shouldn't happen at your end. Okay, so this is a mess we were doing earlier, but now we are doing the folder system, right? So yeah, all the errors are gone, and we have two scripts. So this is one of the mistakes, a very rookie mistake that you might do, and you would be baffled, like what's happening, what am I doing, where am I doing wrong? Okay, This used to happen with me, and that's where I figured it out. So this out of our way now, let's delete this script and simply let's go to the learn script, right? Let's double click on it and we are here, learn script. So these are some statements just using system collection, using Unity engine and whatnot. Let's forget about them. Okay. Simply you can see this is a class, and most or every class that you create will be derived out of a class named as mono behavior. So this is a base class of every class in Unity. You can read more about it. It has some base functionalities which are already given to this, whichever class inherits it. So here we have start function and update function. Let's do something. Let's see what happens. Like what do these things do, right? So let's try to do something simple. That is let's print something. Okay. So good way to print is, the basic way you can do is debug.log. Okay. This is how you can get something printed in the console. So let's say I am start function, right? And let's save this and let's see what happens. So now we have some scene changes. Let's save this as well. And let's click on play. Let's see what happens. So our scene plays and on console, we see nothing. Why is this so? Like there should be something, there shouldn't be something, or what are we doing? So although we have created a script, we have added some functionality onto it, which is as simple as printing something. But this script is in the project folder. This is not in the hierarchy. This is not as of now in the scene. So no matter if we play, nothing will happen. This is not active, right? So let's get this script here. So what can we do? Can we drag and drop it? No, we cannot. Because script is also just like a component. So we need a game object to add a component onto it. Let's simply we can create anything. Let's create an empty game object. Okay. So this is an empty game object. This doesn't have anything, just a transform, no mesh, no material, nothing. That is why you cannot see it. It doesn't have anything. It just has a position. Let's name it controller. Okay. Now on this very game object, we can add this component. The component is learn script. We can either drag and drop it like this. Otherwise, let me show you. We can add it by saying add component, and let's find it here. Yeah, learn script, and done. There we have the learn script. Now, again, we have some scene changes. Let's save it. Whenever there's an asterisk sign, in front of your name of the scene, that means you have some scene changes. Now, let's go to console and let's try to play it and let's see what happens. Okay, now we something here, see here, and that is I am a start function. So as soon as we click on play, this is printed. How many times this is printed? This is just printed once. Okay, so seems like whatever we write in the start function, that is called as soon as this component is active. As soon as play mode starts and this is active, the start function will be called. Okay. Now let's write something in update and let's see what happens. I am update function. Let's save. Again, let's go back and let's click on play. Let's see what happens. So now we can see I'm an update function. I'm an update function. This is being called time and again. It's repeatedly being called. It like we have 999 plus console logs, and this just doesn't stop. This keeps going down, 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 right? So it keeps on printing. Okay, and if we go on the top, what do we see? We have I'm a start function. Okay, so by this small exercise, what we saw that start function is being called only once in the starting, but whatever is in the update function, that will be called repeatedly. Okay, so as it says here as well, update is called once per frame. Okay, so every frame this update is being called. Okay, what other type of functions can we have? So we have a wake function as well. Okay, let's debug something here. Debug.log. I am awake function. Okay, leave it. We don't want our console log to be filled. So let's remove this. Let's comment this. You can simply add 2 forward slashes and that should be commented. Save it. So now let's see what happens. So now if we hit on play, we have two console logs. One is I'm awake and one is I'm start function. So first the awake function is called and then the start function is called. Okay. So basically awake function is a function that is just called before starting your stuff. And all the references should be done here. What are references? We'll get to know soon. Sorry. Okay. What else do we have? So basically what we are seeing here is this is a class. There are some functions. These are automatically called. Okay. We are not doing anything. We're not clicking. This is not on user input. This is automatically called. So these are some of the few of the functions that are predefined functions that are already set to be called, whenever maybe something, this component starts, just, whenever this component is just starting, call the awake function. When this component is working, like, every frame, call the update function. Similarly, we have other functions as well. So let's see what types of functions do we have. Let's play. Let's go to a controller and let's, like, we can disable and enable this component, right? As of now, we have awake function and start function. This has printed, this has run once. Now let's click on this and let's, like, this is stopped now. This is not working anymore. Let's restart it. Again, we do not have any logs. Okay. So there are two types of there are two more functions which can be called. One is on disabled and another one is on enable. So let's print something here. So I am enabled. And similarly, I am disabled. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's try to start now and let's see what happens. So first I'm awake. Okay, awake function is called. Then I'm enabled because this stuff is enabled. This is called. Then the start function is called. Now let's see what happens if we disable it. So this disabled is called. Now let's see if we enable it. I'm enabled is called. Okay. So these two functions are called whenever the component or this component is enabled. That is, if it is, like, if we disable it, then we don't want any of this function to work. We're disabling it, okay? And we want something to be executed just before disabling it. So we use this function on disable. And if you want something to be executed just before enabling this function, starting its things, we use on enable. Another difference that you would find here is start function is only called for the first time, right? No matter if you disable it and then enable it, start function will be called. But on enable will be called every time this is enabled. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to get to know about a few things, about a few functions. Okay, so yeah, these are a few of the functions. Let's remove them and let's get to know more about stuff. Okay, so we're not doing anything here, right? We are just debugging something. Let's try to do something more meaningful. For example, if we want to change the position of a cube, not without editor, but with our script, okay? Or if you want to change the rotation, right? What can we do? Let's see. First and foremost, this component doesn't know about a cube, right? For example, if we have a cube right here in our scene, this is also a game object, this is a game object, but how do these know each other? They don't know each other. We want to, we want the component, this learn script component, to know about this cube. So one of the easiest way to do that is make a public variable whose type is game object and name it something like maybe cube object, right? Now you would see that we have made a public variable. What does this mean? Let's go to our scene back. And here you would see on the learn script itself, we have a cube obj, the variable that we created. It is public. That is why it is being shown here. And it is a type of game object. So we can add any game object here. Let's drag. This is called referencing. Let's drag and drop our cube here. So now for this variable, the cube is set, right? Right. So on start, let's say, let's get the position of this cube maybe. Okay. What if we want to get the position of this cube? Okay. Position. This is everything. This is in 3D space. So here we have a transform, and here, the cube has a transform and its position in X, Y, Z. Okay. So let me have its position. Its position will be of type vector 3. Okay. This is a type of a variable, right, which saves 3 values, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so we want, in this variable, we want to save the position of the cube. How can we do that? So we know we already have access to the cube because we made a game, we have already referenced it, right? So now let's see, what do we have? Cube object. Can we say position? No, we cannot say position right here. What do we do? So basically, cube object is type of game object, okay? Right? Does game object have a property known as position? No. Who has the property? Which component has the property position? It is a transform component. So let's try to get the transform component. So how to get a specific component, a very specific component of from a game object? Cube is a game object. We have multiple components here: transform, mesh, renderer, collider. We want to access the transform component, a very specific component, that is transform component. So how do we access a specific component from a specific game object? So what do we do is we simply type the name of the game object. Then we say get component. This is a function with the help of which you can get the component, the type of component that you want. And in these Angular braces, we type the name of the component. That is, we want the transform component. This is the type of component that we want. Then we do this function, and then this should give us a transform component. Okay. Now, once you have the transform component, we want its position. We can again say dot, and we can get all the properties that the transform component has, which is position. Yes, now we have access to the position. And here you can say, it says, this gives you the world space position of the transform. We talked about two positions, right? World space and the local space, right? Okay, that's a good point. We'll be seeing here. Okay, so you can see position, and this is local position. Position of the transform relative to its parent, right? So let's first get the position. Okay, and now end this. So what we did here is, from this game object, which is a cube, we said, let's find it. Give me the transform component of it. We got the transform component. And from that transform component, we said, give me the position property of this transform. And that we have saved in this cube position. So let's debug this and let's see if we are getting the right thing or not. Okay. So cube position is equal to, let's print the value of the variable cube pos, because in that we have already got the position, right? Let's save this very script. Let's go back there and let's see. Okay, so here you can see the cube's position is 0, 0, 0. Let's see what do we get. Simply click on play and let the magic happen. So here it says I am start function, and then it says cube position 0.000.000.000. Okay, which basically means 0, 0, 0, right? Now, what if, let's see if, if we change the position, we write maybe 2 here, 2.5. Okay, now let's run this. So now it says I am start function, then it says cube position is equal to 0, 2.5, and 0. So you saw, with the help of this very script, we can access the property. As of now, we are just accessing the property. What if you want to change it, right? Let's change it. Okay. So what we'll do is, let's change this and let's say cube. Again, we'll have to get the component, because now we want to set it, right? We want to say position is equal to, now here we have to give a vector 3. One way of doing this would be again create a vector 3 variable, right? New cube pos position, and then you can create new. This is how you create a new vector position, and then you can say maybe 1, comma 3, comma 1, right? And then you can take this variable and set it here. And why we are able to do this? Because position is of type vector 3. And here we create a variable of type vector 3. We set it some properties, and now we're saying it set whatever value is in this, set the position of the cube to this value. Okay. So again, we can do a debug log, although we will be able to see the change in the editor as well, but let's do it. Okay. So after cube position, before change cube position, after change cube position. Okay. And here what we will do is, this is again, we would say, okay, we can simply say to access it, we want this, right? Let's not use the variable. Okay. So here, after this has changed the position, we are saying again, give us the position and print it. Okay. Let's see what happens. Right. So right now the property of this transform cube position is 0, 2.50. Then we are setting it to 131. So we'll be able to see the change here on the transform as well, and we'll be seeing some logs as well. Let's click on play. Let's see what happens. Boom. First of all, currently the value of cube is position is 131. So we have actually changed the value. We can see here as well. Before change it was 0.20, 2.50, and after change it is 131. So this is the simple example showing the power of the scripting. That is, now we can actually change the behavior, change the properties, the value of the properties via scripting. We do not need to do it manually via the editor itself, right? So this is one of the powers. Okay, let's deep dive into it and let's see, let's try to understand what's happening. Okay, so what we're doing here is, again, for a recap, this is a game object. We want to change the property, a specific property. A property is under a component. So we want to get that component and change the very specific property. That's what we did. And we did this via script. So in controller game object, we had a component. This is the script. In this, we said, okay, let's create a variable in which you can set any game object, and we made it public. So once you make it public, you can actually drag and drop things here, okay, of the same type. We said game object. Okay, if we said material and we try to drag and drop cube, this won't work, right? Because their types are not same. So now this script knows cube. It can access its component transform via get component, and then it can access its position property because we have the component. That's what we did here. So in simple terms, what do we do is we get what we did was first was get the game object. Okay, that was cube for us, right? Next we got the desired component. For example, this time it was transform, next time it could be material, right? We want to change the color of the cube. Then what would we get? Which component will we work with? We will work with the renderer, and in renderer we will change the material property, and in material we'll change the color, right? So for now we got the transform. Third, access the property of the component, right? We access the position property. Then maybe change it, you just print it, you do whatever you want to, right? So how can we get to know like what all properties are, because as I told you earlier, in editor we are only shown a few properties. In transform it says rotation, scale, and position. Maybe there are more properties. What you can do, simply you can go here, right? It's a class again, right? A class means it would have some variables, some functions. So you can control or command click on this and click on it, and this would open the definition, like this would open the class of transform. And here you can see what all things we have. So here we have a public vector position. This is a property, that is why we were able to access it. Then we have Euler angles. This is the rotation as Euler angles in degrees. Okay. Then we have local Euler angles. Okay. Then we have quaternion rotation. And what else do we have? We have local scale. We have the parent. Okay. So let's see this, because this property is not shown here, right? But this is a property. Let's try to access this. Okay, this is child count. How many childs does it have? Hierarchy, capacity, constraint, property, scale, get Euler angles, set Euler angles. These are multiple functions. Set parent, right? Nothing is, all of these are not shown here, right? But these are things. So you can get to learn about this via taking a look at this transform. Or another better way, another way is you can simply write transform component unit. Okay, so you should go to the docs of Unity 3D. Okay, and there are two types of docs. One is the scripting API, one is the Unity manual. Okay, both of them have different things. The scripting API will give you all the properties that you can access via scripting. See, there are so many properties. These are all the properties you can access. You can set them, you can get them, maybe, some properties you cannot set. You can just get a value, maybe, right? And then there are public methods. These are also methods that you can use to set or retrieve values or change values. Similarly, in the manual, you will actually get an understanding of what the transform is. Okay, so you can see here in Unity documentation, you have two things: manual and scripting. So in the scripting API, you will be shown much more technical stuff, that is the properties, methods that you can access. And in a manual, it will be trying to give you an overview of what the transform is. Like, what is this? What does it do? For example, here we see transforms of this component, right? So the transform is used to store game objects, position, rotation, and scale by renting state, and thus is very important. A game object will always have a transform component attached. It is not possible to remove a transform or to create a game object without one. Okay, and here it is trying to tell you about the properties, a few of the properties. It's telling you how you can edit this. These are the tools that we talked about, right? These are transform tools. So in manual, you are being told about these things. Then you are being told about the concept of hierarchy, parenting as well. Okay. So reading documentation is a great skill that you need to develop over time, because you won't find all the answers in any video you see, maybe this course, maybe any YouTube video or anything, because there would be times when you want to learn about something specific, right, which you don't know about till now. So that is where you would have to go on Google and search about it. And that's where you would be going to the documentation, the scripting API, the manuals, where you will get to learn about stuff. Okay, so this is the manual and this is a scripting API, right? So with the help of these two, you can get to know what a component can do, what a component is made to do, what a component is desired to do. Via the manual, maybe get an overall idea, and with the help of the scripting API, you can get to know the properties, the methods that are available, the things that you can do with them. And best part is each of them is clickable. Like you can click on this and actually this will take you to the property and give you an overview of this. So description of this is like transform that has changed. This will give you, has the transform changed since the last time the flag was set to false. Okay. So, and this is a small example also that they have given. If you want to check if the transform changed, this is how you can do it. Okay. Let's see another example of maybe parent. Okay. So the parent of the transform, this will give you the parent of the transform. Changing the parent will modify the parent relative position, scale and rotation, but keep the world position rotation at the same. Okay, what does this mean? So here, this is cube, right? Nobody is parent of it. Let's see, what if we try to access its parent? What if we say, bring or tell us the parent of this cube? Okay, so let's do that. Debug.log And again, we want to get to know the parent. Parent is a property that is available in the component. Which component? Transform component. So again, we'll get to the cube obj. This is a game object right here, right? We want to get its component. We can get that by get component. What is the component? What is the type of the component that we want to get? That is a transform component. Okay. Then which property do we want to get? We want the parent property. Okay. So let's debug the parent. Okay. Cube parent. Right. So here it says debug.log queue parent. This is a text, simple text that we've added that we want to print. And then it will be print plus means concatenation, that this will be after this will be printing this, whatever the value of this is, right? Let's save this. Let's go to a scene. Let's click on play and let's see what happens. And here we have queue parent and nothing is written here, right? So let's see. So this parent, what is this? This is a transform, right? We want the name of this. So let's write name. Now this will give us the name of the parent, right? And it says object reference, not set to instance of an object. Okay, let's go here, set. So these are errors. Let's see what went wrong. Cube parent, cube object dot get transform dot parent dot name. Yes, everything is right. It says null exception. That shouldn't make a difference. Yeah. So it says null reference exception, object reference not set to instance of an object. Okay. So here's the object. We already have referenced it properly. That is cube. Yep. Okay. And here we are saying cube parent cube object that get transformed the parent. Okay. So looks like this doesn't have a parent. That is why we are getting this, if I'm not wrong. Okay. Let's try to access again. This will just be giving us the name of the cube, right? This should work. Let's see if this works. That means we are on the right path, right? This gives us cube. That is the name of this. Okay. And if we say parent.name, then it gives us, right? If we are not doing that wrong, that shouldn't make a difference again. I believe we do not have a parent. That is why it is giving us that error. We'll soon be checking that out as well, right? This is how you would learn. This is how you check things, right? Again, this will give us this error. What we'll do is let's create an empty game object. Let's name it cube parent. Okay, it's everything is 0, 0, 0, and let's drag and drop cube on it so that this becomes a child of this, right? Now let's again, this is just two string is just converting anything to a string. Let's save this. Let's run this again. Now it shall work. Yep. So now we have a name. Q parent is Q parent because we named it Q parent, right? That is ambiguous. Let's name it Q. Make it parent. Yeah. Now we can actually see this is one of the properties. This cube whose its parent is the parent of cube, right? We're not shown this property here in the transform, but this is a property that we can actually access, right? So this is a property parent of cube, and we can actually change it as well. We named it, right? We got the name of the parent of the cube. Let's change it. Let's see. Okay. Let's say maybe cube dot get component transform dot parent equal to null. Null means nothing, like nobody is the parent. Let's see what this gives us, right? So basically what this should do is this should remove cube out of this parent of cube, and cube shouldn't have any base. That should be it. Let's see what happens. That's what happens. That is exactly what happens. So as you can see here, while printing, we have parent of cube, but after just this line, we said that you know parent of cube should be nothing. So this is removed from it, and now it is cube. Like these two are different things. This is not the parent. Null, you can say, means nothing, right? So that was a base of how you can do things by scripting. That was just a small demo of how powerful scripting can be. Scripting is a really important part of your game development journey because it is through scripting only that you add multiple behaviors, and you don't need to do everything via editor, right? Because once your game is built and you ship it to the user just will have access to a game, nothing, no editor. They won't be seeing everything, right? So we need to add systems, we need to add code, we need to add some behavior so that the user can actually give input via maybe the screen, maybe keyboard, maybe mouse, and that is all taken care by scripting. So that we'll be doing in our next class. In today's class, this was just a basic overview about scripting. Okay. And for some of you who might not have any idea about coding, you don't know the basics of coding, that might be pretty rare that you are in this course and you might not know about it, but if it's okay, we said no worries. If you even if you don't know about the basics, you know these are a few courses that I'm suggesting you, maybe a few, not courses, simple videos on YouTube that can be really helpful to get a basic understanding of it. Okay, although we are also doing things on a pretty basic level, but if you don't know what a variable is, right, what a class is, this, I would say, this video is pretty helpful. This C# tutorial full course for beginners, free bootcamp.org. On Unity, you can see this. Also, if you want to get better understanding about the scripting in Unity, right? If you want to learn more in depth, this is the playlist that you can just have a, go through it, have a watch at it. And with this, you would get to know about components, maybe that what we talked about today, scripting, excuse me, and about if else conditions, access modifiers. These all will be taken care into our session itself. But if you want to have a look at it, this is the official stuff provided by Unity, and this is known as beginner friendly scripting tutorials, right? So you don't need to do all of them, but you can go through a few of them, whatever you want to, and you would get a brief understanding. Okay, so let's do a recap of what we did today. And today we learned about scripting. First of all, we make our scene pretty neat and clean, right? We used the folder system. Now see, things look pretty much neat and organized. And with the help of this, you can actually access stuff in a pretty easy way. Okay. Then we jumped onto scripting. What is scripting? Then we saw lifestyle, life cycle of a script, basic, what comes first, maybe on enable, awake, start, update, on disable, and whatnot. There are many more functions, but we look at a few of them. Then we understood what is referencing, like how can we access other game objects via the script. One way of that was using the referencing, making a public game object and then referencing it via the editor itself. Then once we have a game object, via scripting, we got to know about how can we access a very specific component from a game object to access a very specific property. For example, we access the transform component of the cube Then we access the position property of from the transform, right? Then we change the property as well, and we saw things. We also saw that not all properties of any given component are mentioned in this editor, right? Some of them are visible, right? So how can we take a look at those things? We learned about that. We can simply, first of all, control and click on it so that we can go to the definition of it. And here we can see multiple more things. Another way we talked about was using the Unity manual to get an overall understanding about the component. And then the Unity scripting API, which will be really, really helpful for you guys. Because here you can access all the properties, you get to know all the properties whose access you have. You can actually click on things and get to know about stuff, right? About what exactly these things are. And then we changed a few properties which were not visible in the editor via scripting. So that was for today. And I hope you learned a thing or two, right? And for today, you can just try to make your own script and try to access different properties. Today, we access this transform property, the position property from transform component. I would say try to change the scale, right? Try to change the material, right? And see how it works. Okay. So that's all from my side for today. And see you guys soon. Bye.